Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Culture Clash Network. And we are here with Pride and Black Music Awareness Month, or appreciation, actually, because it's not just awareness, it's appreciation of the culture that we come from. And there's different backgrounds of life that we all come from. This is also Pride Month and Black Music Appreciation Month. And again, this is the best time to talk about it. We're at the end of the month now. Hope everybody has had a great weekend. Let's go ahead and get started. So, we obviously, when we do these, we usually come together and we're not alone. So, I want to bring up the first guest, not really a guest, but part of the panel. So, first, we're going to introduce from hailing from down south. I mean, well, both of these gentlemen are from down south, but from down south by way of Miami, now residing in Cleveland, Ohio, the host of Marks with Mikes and the point center of Culture Clash Network, because he can't be, well, I guess there's Magic Johnson, he was a point guard, he was over 6'8". So we got Mr. 6'9", JT. What's going on?
What's going on, yo? Good to be back in the house, man. Love what we doing here. Let's
Hey,
go.
let's go. Also, host of the Talk It Up podcast, the five-star general of DWE, uh, uh, Mr. Slap, Mr. Slap your mama, slap your daddy, slap your auntie, slap your uncle, slap whoever you want. I got problems all day, but I get money all day. You know who it is. He's not only the good, he's also the great. I'm talking about Miami, the great.
What's going on, y'all, man? We in for another one, man. Let's go, man. Let's
Hey,
get the
yeah,
party started.
yep, we in for another one. And like I said, let's go ahead and kick this off. Obviously, it's Pride Month, and African Music Appreciation Month. We got to talk about the history of it. Hopefully, one of our next members who's coming up, she embodies both of these things. Miss Final Boss Lady, Mrs. Johnson, however she wants to go about it. So, gentlemen, we'll go around real quick. I'll ask a few questions. JT, I'm gonna start with you. So, my first question is, what do you think Pride Month means to you personally?
I mean, for me personally, Pride Month is something that I definitely acknowledge. I couldn't sit here and lie and not say that my family member is full of pride. I have cousins that are gay, lesbians, in between. I have people that, who don't identify as one thing or two things. So I have no choice but to respect it and acknowledge it. I don't alienate my family members or people a part of the LGBTQ plus community, because at the end of the day, we all got to be here. We all got to be on this planet, this little rock that we call Earth. We got to deal with each other. But at the same time, just because someone's opinion or lifestyle is different than yours does not mean that you alienate them. Okay, what they eat is not going to necessarily make you shit.
Mhm. Understood. Miami, same question to you.
To me, I it's pretty much Mars hit the nail on the head. I feel like we all are human. We all have feelings. We cry the same. We everything makes us emotional. I hate that they went through what they went through, and I know we're gonna go in the show of the history of what they had to go through, but we have to understand that they bleed the same. Some things that make them cry makes us cry. They like the same things we like, and I know it was times they felt like they was not welcome. So and I hate that. So us as black people should understand that we should have been more opening to them, because there was a time in history that we didn't feel like we was welcome to. So I like I say, Mars hit the nail on the head with the just hey, I respect it. It's your choice. It's just I feel that they had to went through so much, and it is still a long road to go. When there's still nowhere there yet. They're still fighting for many rights and situations with that too. So, but we'll get into that later on today.
Okay. Yeah, no big deal. JT should be on his way back. So yeah, part of that is just understanding, some of the people that had to lay down their life for there to be even be a situation like this. And for Pride Month, I did some research and I want to share some history with you guys. So we had to go back to, I mean, ever since like the beginning of time, there's always been people who were not heterosexual. They were either gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever, asexual, intersexual, trans. It happened. It happened. It happened. It's been a thing. It's not nothing new under the sun. But because of the vilification and the hatred that they had to sustain during that time, in 1897, a man who was educated in philosophy and medicine named James Hirschfeld, who was Jewish, and he lived in Berlin, Germany. In 1897, he had created the Scientific Humanitarian Committee, which basically showed that there was a movement that was going to create gay rights for those people and for those individuals. Now, because of this, this message was so strong that this was during the Weimar Republic. No, I'm sorry. What happened later was during the Weimar Republic. And for those who don't know, Hitler coined that phrase, and that's eventually what led to the Nazi movement down the line. Now, James Hirschfeld was Jewish and gay. So, because of that, he was also a sexologist. So, he argued about the treatment that gays, bisexuals, lesbians, and people who wanted to transition had experienced not only in Germany, but all over the UK, and things that he had heard about because there were soldiers who had fought in wars that were on both sides of the fence. And there were also individuals who were killed because of this. Not only this, but in 1935, he was exiled from France because he was Jewish and gay, and the neo-Nazis destroyed his books, they destroyed his home, and they tried to kill him, and he eventually died in France in 1935. And that's kind of really messed up to think about because of what that eventually led to in the world war. So there was plenty of reasons why things became so terrible. However, what's not terrible is one of the people we have here that I've been waiting on, because this person embodies everything that not only Pride Month is about, but also Black music awareness at the same time. So the other part of DWE and the Talk It Up podcast and the 6-star general, Mrs. Johnson herself, the final boss lady.
Well, hello.
Hey, what's going on?
I see that you're giving us a nice history lesson. That's what I walked into.
Yeah. I'm not done. I just want to kind of segue this in real quick. Just to get out, because I'm setting this up really big. So because again, if you're going to be an ally for Pride Month, you need to know the history. If you do not know the history, you cannot be an ally. That's just you're just bandwagoning. So when I was talking about James Hirschfeld, Magnus Hirschfeld, there was a gentleman named Henry Gerber in Chicago of 1924 who had started Society for Human Rights, which was the first gay rights organization in the United States. And that led to also another gay rights organization being created 30 years later in 1950, which was the Mattachine Society. And the Mattachine Society had members who were originally part of Society of Human Rights. And because of that, what they did was they knew that there was vilification being faced in New York because of their gender identity. And that led to the main thing that caused the uprising of Pride Month, which was acknowledged a year after the incident happened. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the Stonewall Uprising, which actually took place at the end of June in 1969. And then Pride Month the following year was actually recognized in the 70s. So having said all of that, there's still a lot of history. And I challenge you guys to do your history on actually here's one piece of information that I will share. In 1927, there was a movie called Wings. And Wings was the first movie ever filmed that had a male to male kissing scene in cinema, which was very taboo, but the director didn't care, and that's what he wanted. So now that Boss Lady is here and she is the focal point of CCN's Pride Month, I'm going to give her the floor and I'm going to ask her this question. What does Pride mean? What does Pride Month mean to you? And tell me about its importance that it has on your life.
Yeah, thank you for all that. It means a lot to me. It means a lot that we actually have a month to celebrate. If you go into any of your local stores throughout the year, are you going to see pride flags, in December, in January? Really? No. And even now, and I've just noticed this year, that a lot of companies have pulled back on it. And why was that? Was because the government decided that they weren't going to enforce DEIs. And a lot of people think, oh, that's just for equality when it comes to African Americans. No, there's a lot that are protected under DEIs, and that includes the gay community. And we're seeing that live and in our eyes, and we're not even recognizing it. If you go into, of course, the worst guy of them all, Target, you don't see those displays anymore. And Target was huge before they got rid of this recommendation that they had to have DEIs. Target was known for having what? For having a large price section and for having a lot of ethnic hair products. Once they said, hey, you're not required to have DEIs anymore, they pulled all of it back. They decided they were going to go ahead and put all of our ethnic beauty on clearance. And then they pushed out one of the most biggest small businesses that they had, and that was the Lip Bar, and that is African American owned, and they were on Shark Tank. So there is a lot of changes I've seen. I go into Dollar Tree, which previous, Lip Bar, that's where, Dollar Tree, which I have been going for years to get my Pride stuff because it's cheap and effective and it gets the message across, and they don't have anything at all. They have completely skipped Pride Month and have went straight to 4th of July.
Wow.
I have found almost nothing. And even the section that they do have, it'll be maybe one or maybe two fixtures. So I don't have anything to share for Pride Month. And this was supposed to be the month where I didn't go because of safety reasons, especially now. But World Pride was actually held in DC, and I am in the DC area. But I didn't even have the material to go. I went to order that online at this point. So that just goes ahead and shows you how much we have moved backwards. We took 10 steps forwards and 20 steps back. A few years ago, a lot of states decided that they want to go ahead and accept gay marriages and legally recognize them. No longer do you have to go go ahead and, drive states away to get married to your partner, because at the end of the day, who really cares who you marry? If you want to go ahead and be married and love someone, then why is it bothering the world, right? But a lot of states, they pull back on that. Unfortunately, there are inclusions in schools and to have, unisex bathrooms. A lot of schools were doing it, and then now we're pulling back. Same thing with fitting rooms that were, got rid of the man and ladies, because it's supposed to be just open for, non-binaries and transgenders. And a lot of stores have pulled back on that as well. And that's something that I have personally seen them actually do. And in my state, they pulled back on having those transitional rights for school students, having the bathrooms and those locker rooms. They have absolutely pulled back on those actually this year. So it is very important to me. It's important to me also as a Black person, because we're in the same month as Juneteenth. And I've known that a lot of you have seen the absolutely disgusting representation that we've gotten at Kroger on their bakery section.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that just goes to show you, where we're taking that 20 steps back. And I think at this point, we're in 2025, we have flying and we damn sure should be able to accept people for who they are and for what they represent. And also, and this is a word that Dallas used very graciously, is you should be an ally. Because I guarantee you there's someone that you have came across that you have liked as a person, or someone in your family who was part of our community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, thank you for sharing that. And I wanted you here because I know how much this means to you. And I feel like this show wouldn't be the same without you, especially since like you're a big part of it. This is something you live, breathe, and die. I had to have you here. You have to be here. Flipping back though, Boss Lady had mentioned about gay marriage, and gay marriage wasn't actually legalized in the US until June 26, 2015, I want to believe. But here's the funny part. Gay marriage was legalized in Canada 10 years before we did it, which again, and you have to talk about one of the cases, the biggest case that happened that went to court was Obergefell versus Hodges. And that basically was the focal point to leading to gay marriage being legalized. Now, in other places, obviously it's not, but in the United States of America and in Canada, this is a thing. And it's really sad because a lot of society is still not open to the idea and not accepting when they should be. We have to be accepting of all cultural values. And speaking of that, there's another point of history different from the others. This was the first gay themed silent film of the German era. Now, again, this was during 1919. And as the Weimar Republic started to uprise, Hitler was against that, which again, as I had said earlier, led to the exiling of Magnus Hirschfeld. When we go now into Black music, there also was a bit of a pushback, because when you think about artists who were openly gay and also were Black and did music, there's actually one person that comes to mind right off the bat. Like this guy should be on the Mount Rushmore for not only Pride Month, but Black music. And that person, ladies and gentlemen, is Little Richard. Little Richard was actually kicked out of his parents' house by his father for being gay, which he had talked about. And when he had worked with Chuck Berry, the men who invented rock and roll, Chuck Berry had said, listen, I don't care what you are. You can make music. That's all I care about. With black music, it had been vilified again and looked down upon because they did not believe that we could create music. Well, since they felt that way, I have something to show everybody. And I'm going to show you right now. What I pulled up right here is a little bit of a chart. Things that music genres created largely by black people or heavily inspired or influenced by black people. So if you take a good look, we got gospel, jazz, soul, funk, Motown sound, bebop, swing, stride, piano, big band, ragtime. Now you're see, look, coon songs. That wasn't us. That was not us. So, but they tried to make it that way. Vocal jazz, house, hip hop, disco, EDM, UK garage was heavily inspired by us. Techno, rap we created, obviously. Two-step garage, trap, K-pop, folk rock, and dance pop we heavily influenced. Let's go back a little bit. We have pop, classic rock, rockabilly, rock and roll, doo-wop, rock steady, R&B, race music, blues, ska, new jack swing, reggae, obviously. And these are a lot of the, and also, if we want to be completely honest, I'm about to drop another bomb, about to drop another nuke. You can thank the Afro-Caribbeans and Cubans for the creation of salsa, because that also is a heavy influence that we had to deal with. So when I ask everybody on this panel, and I'm going to start with you, JT, we're talking about black music. I'm getting one person who comes to mind for black music that you can appreciate. It doesn't have to be whoever everybody else picks. Who's your pick?
So that's a long list of people I can go down. And if I can just correlate it with Pride Month as well, Little Richard was a great choice. But when I think black music and transcending time, I have to give it up to Ray Charles. I got to give it up to Stevie Wonder. Like, their imprint on music not only touched every genre. You talk about Ray Charles, who cut a gospel, country, rock, blues. His imprint in music is everywhere.
And it was everywhere. It was everywhere so much that it just took JT out the picture. But that's okay. He'll be back shortly. I'll go next. When I think about black music, I actually want to point somebody out real quick before we bring back JT. JT, I feel like you having a Dragon Ball Z battle with your internet connection. Let me bring you back real quick.
I don't know what's going on with that. I keep getting this error message. I don't know if StreamYard's trying to bring me back or whatever.
I think it's actually the program, because it's freezing a lot on my end too. So
It just kicked me out twice, well, numerous times. But yeah, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder. I mean, you look at their music, their imprint, their influence. They have literally transcended music. There's not a sample right now in music today that does not feature one of those two artists. And you can go down the line. Like, Ray Charles been having his song sample forever. Stevie Wonder's been having all his music sample forever. I mean, you look at Gangsta's Paradise by Coolio, sampled from Stevie Wonder. You look at Gold Digger by Kanye West, sampled from Ray Charles. We're talking about, music that transcends, and their music was able to break barriers. You're talking about during a time where you had the rope separating people. You had blacks on one side, whites on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And they were key focal points until breaking that up during the segregation Jim Crow era. So their music will forever be goated. You mentioned Ray Charles, not Ray Charles, you mentioned Little Richard. They never gave him nothing. Little Richard is literally a father of rock and roll, if not the innovator of rock and roll with Chuck Berry.
Mm-hmm.
They never gave that man nothing. But once again, because of what he did and also living his life to the fullest. I mean, it wasn't a secret. Little Richard was gay, but it wasn't that, he screamed it out to the top of his lungs until later on into his career.
Yeah, I totally get it. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard today. They on some trash. Um, I'll go next. I will say there is a woman who I want to put out there that without her, there actually would not be Black Music Month. And that's Diana Williams. Diana Williams was not only just an activist, she was in radio for 50 years. And Diana Williams was responsible for founding the International Association of African American Music. And what that did was that gave appreciation to Black music through performing, celebration, and the overall history of it. So much that President Jimmy Carter in 1979 had recognized Black music awareness, not only because of Diana Williams, but because of Kevin Gamble as well. And because of that, Kenny Gamble. Because of that, Diana had also co-written House Concurrent Bill 509. And House Concurrent Bill 509 is created to celebrate Black music. So because of this, it's now a cultural institution, and it gave Miss Diana Williams the title the Mother of Black Music Month because of 50 years of being in radio. And not only that, but her unwillingness to allow Black music to not be appreciated. Because when President Clinton had told her, yeah, go get some legislation and we'll go ahead and do it, she had worked for 10 grueling years to get to that point. And I would love to have Diana Williams on the show to talk about it, but that's who I want to give my roses to, because without her sacrifice, we wouldn't have this. Boss Lady, I'm gonna go to you next. In Miami, I'm gonna have you finish it off.
Yeah, as far as great examples for African Americans, for newers, I got Lil Nas X. As we know, it took him a while for him to feel comfortable enough to actually, come out and say that. Frank Ocean is also a good example. But of course, me, I'm on a different side of music, so I have my own. So I have people like Lance Bass from NSYNC, and that one for me is very, very dear to my heart, because if anyone tells you there are a bigger NSYNC fan than myself, they're absolutely lying to you, because I had an entire room that was just made just for NSYNC stuff. Just so you know, growing up. And he came out years after the group broke up and came out. Well, one, he was going to Mars, and two, that he was also a gay man. And he talked about in his book about how he hid it for years because it was he thought it would hurt or hinder the group's success. And he's been married for 10 plus years. They have two twin boys. He's very happy to his husband. He posts all the time, and now he's a strong activist for gay rights. But that's something that he hid for years because he just thought the record label and the fans, wouldn't accept him. We also have famous people who come out just out the gate. One of my favorites is JoJo Siwa. You know her for being that Nickelodeon star, and she's now a singer. She recently came out. How did she come out? By having a shirt that says "I have a gay cousin," and now rumors are is that she's working on transitioning now, and I'm starting to see those changes in her. Another example would be Lady Gaga, openly bisexual, and we know how she feels about the pride community. Actually, she was a campaign where for every $1 from her makeup line, she was donating $1 to certain charities, for gay rights. And I'm a big fan of her make. I'm actually going to buy something for her line today once I get off of here. We openly bisexual. So the list just kind of goes on and on. We also have, of course, very famous Ricky Martin. We know how long he held that in for many years, many years. Kim Petras, she is really like the first, like, admittedly transsexual singer. So that list just goes on and on. And it's the majority of people. And of course, it's a little bit touchy subject. But as things are coming out with the Diddy trial, we're finding out more and more about, bisexual events with a lot of our famous stars and names. And a lot of that, had to do with Diddy himself and a lot of people that we see in music and in films. And a lot of that has been going on, for many years. We're talking about decades now, including Diddy himself. That was the accusations that came out. If that's true, that it is what it is. We're looking more so at other crimes, right? Really, but hey, I mean, for me, it means a lot to me. I appreciate music as a whole, not just Black music, not just rock, not just pop, not just rap, not just hip hop, but music as a whole as being an outlet for the gay community. Because basically what they're saying is, hey, you don't have to hide in closed doors anymore. This is what we are, and we are still successful. People are still going to book us. You're still going to buy our albums. You're still going to come to our concerts. And if we can make it as what we are, why can't, someone on the everyday 9-to-5 job, or even now in this economy, your 6 to midnight job, can go out there and be themselves.
Understood. Yo, thank you for sharing that. Miami, tell us about Black music and what it means to you, man. Give me an artist that sticks out to you first comes to mind. Miami there? Miami, are you there? Okay, I'll wait for him. Moving on, going back to Pride Month, we had different athletes start to come out. And I think the first one that I remember in a major league sport was David Kope, who played in the National Hockey League. When he had come out, basically he was, again, vilified by his teammates, not necessarily supported, but he had taken pride in speaking and expressing as someone who wanted to see change. And lo and behold, like 30 plus years later, in the NBA, the first openly gay player was Jason Collins. And I remember the news of that broke like a tidal wave. People were acting like it was completely taboo for that to happen. People were worried. I think Jason was worried that his teammates were going to treat him differently, that he was going to be traded. And you saw down the line, it wasn't about what he identified with. It was about how he performed on the court. And he didn't have as long and as a successful a career as all the other superstars, because he wasn't a superstar, but he had made headlines and he had taken that step to let people know it's okay to be who you are. This is who you really are. Embrace that. Matter of fact, in 2013, I think right around the time of SummerSlam, Darren Young had come out. Darren Young was like one of the first wrestlers to come out. Darren Young had come out literally in a TMZ interview. And he had received so much overwhelming support from not just the IWC, but from the locker room, because that's how I knew we were in different times, because I didn't ever see people vilify Darren Young for being gay. All they cared about is what he did in the ring. And when you saw somebody like Randy Orton, support Darren Young, knowing that the troubled past that Randy Orton had back in the day, and for him to come out and be supportive, I'm like, yeah, times have changed. That's incredible. That's incredible. Part of that, though, is realizing where you are in life and accepting the fact that there is always going to be somebody different than you. There were so many different people. And once these athletes started to, and it spread, once these athletes started to come out as gay, it now became a thing for like athletes to come out. Now it wasn't an issue. People didn't have to announce that they were gay. It's like, okay, well, who cares if he's gay? I care about what he does on the field. Michael Sam with the Los Angeles Rams came out as gay, another NFL player. Shortly after Jason Collins did, shortly after Darren Young did. It didn't matter. What mattered was the fact that they took the leaps and bounds to express themselves. And I'll give you another moment. Anthony Bowens from AEW. This is how I knew that we had reached the pinnacle of accepting it, because chanting "he's gay" was not demoralizing. It was in support of Anthony Bowens being gay, because during a promo, when this woman was hitting on him, he was like, "No, I'm sorry, I'm gay." And he got a pop from the crowd and a chant. And that warmed my heart, because he was not at that point in life where he had to hold it in. He had officially just announced it. And that's kind of how it needs to be. I have a cousin who is transgender, and when he had made that transition, I said, "Okay, I got you. I don't want you to feel any kind of way. I got you." I remember snapping and ending my 10-year relationship with one of my friends when he tried to tell me that I shouldn't be around my cousin because of my cousin transitioning. It has something to do with the fact that he had a mental illness. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I refused to accept that. And I ended it. I ended that relationship. We have people in our lives that we need to, if you know somebody who is going through, I got plenty of friends on my Facebook page who are LGBTQIA plus. Plenty of them. I do not care. Matter of fact, when I made a post about it, one of my childhood friends started dropping Bible verses in my comments. Started dropping Bible verses, and then I dropped one right back at him. Because if you're going to judge somebody, make sure that you're not a human being that makes mistakes and sins. Oh wait, you do. So guess what? Now that you do, you can't really judge people for who they are and what they decide to express themselves as. Miami, going back to the topic of Black music, do you want to give me the person that you most identify with in Black music that you recognize? Are you with me, Miami?
Yeah, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we good. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I was saying that, for me, when it comes to music, music means everything to me. Because if you know my history, I used to do music, um, category hip hop, but I actually grew up off of R&B.
Mm,
Some of the names Marshall might said, but I always thought about people like when you say this, you think about the Prince, the Michael Jackson. They always had that style that people looked at them and it was like, wow, they stood out. And encourage the gay community to feel and embrace themselves. They didn't. I mean, if you seen Prince, the way he dressed, everyone loved it. So that's one. I think that's one big name I think about when I think about this conversation. I did want to make some comments about the ally thing, but I know we moved on it. But I did have some comments about it. But since we moved on,
no, 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 no. Go
I'll
ahead. Go. We're on both subjects. Go ahead. Say what you got to say. Make it known.
well, I do. I had a few things. It's okay to be an ally, but it comes at a price. Because when you become one, people start thinking you. Oh well. they're gay, or oh man, they must be on a down, or this and this and that. It comes at a price, and many people don't want to come out as allies because of that. And that right there makes me feel, yeah, we came a long way, but people will still judge you even if you are an ally, just speaking up on the community that we have, so that has to stop somewhere, especially with our people. We do it the most. Many
Mm.
people of our us say quickly, "Oh man, they talk about he must be associated with us something. You guilty by association." That doesn't mean that. Like I say, these people they bleed the same, they cry the same, they have the same feelings as us. They're just a little different, and we have to understand that just because someone's different, we're all different in a way. We're not all the same, because if that was so, the world would probably be pretty boring. But I mean, we have to look at that and just realize that we have to change that ourselves. It changes with us. I don't feel like somebody needs to make us do it, but I feel like we need to change it when somebody comes out and they say you're an ally. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Uh, the black. So for the black music, we'll talk a little bit about that real quick. Weave in and out that between that and Pride Month, because I have some things about Pride Month I want to talk about real quick. Um, I found a picture of somebody, and I was like, "Oh man!" I don't, when I see an image of someone, I don't picture how they look as young. But ladies and gentlemen, tell me who is this woman right here? Who is that woman right there? That is the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin, being the embodiment and the Queen of Soul, is one of the focal points that, when you look at like how hip hop was created based off of like soul and funk. And when it's like a combination of that, Godfather of Soul, James Brown, Aretha Franklin. And on, I believe it was August 11th, 1977, there was a incident in the South Bronx, to where I believe it was like a party happened, but it was because of like equipment from a riot that happened in the Bronx, and there was a party being thrown by DJ Kool Herc. And anybody who knows DJ Kool Herc embodies the 5 elements of hip hop. And he was using 2 turntables to create rhythms of breaking, soul, and funk. And that was how hip hop was created in the South Bronx. Because of the originators of the South Bronx, hip hop became later a global phenomenon, especially with Rapper's Delight, The Message, and the birth of NWA, which took hip hop in a totally different direction. Hip hop became extremely influential down the line as the 90s progressed, from the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s. So let me ask the panel, and I'll start with Boss Lady first, and I'll start with Miami and then end it out with JT. So when we talk about hip hop, what is one hip hop album that you could play every day for the rest of your life and never get tired of? No matter what it is, Boss Lady.
You went to the wrong person. Like, no, none. Like, that's not my
None?
genre of music. None.
Okay.
It's not my genre
Okay.
of music.
No
Like,
problem.
yeah, I have like your old school people, but like for me, no, I don't. That's not my dibble and dab.
So that's okay. So then, instead of hip hop music, give me another genre that you could play from a black artist that over and over again. It doesn't have to be anything monumental, just what you feel are comfortable with. She's thinking.
I am thinking. I'm thinking really hard because I really don't have.
Well, okay, I'll come back to you. Miami, I'm gonna go to you. Can't hear you, Miami. You there?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Well,
Yep. Go ahead.
I actually got two Dallas
Go.
Cast.
Go for it.
My first one would be KRS-One, Return of the Boom.
Mm.
That's my dog. My dad used to always listen to KRS-One. I grew up off of KRS-One, and my second will be Nas Illmatic. That's what made me start rapping.
Hmm.
So I think those are my two, Nas Illmatic and KRS-One. Those are my two guys.
All right, JT. I'm gonna go to you now.
Well, hopefully StreamYard doesn't kick me again.
Hmm.
But if I had to go ahead, I mean, since Miami gave two, I'll go and give my first one. First one being Notorious B.I.G. Ready to Die. That is probably one of the greatest albums ever produced, far as start to intro. I mean, intro to end. It's almost like watching a movie. Um, if I go, if I go on the R&B side, one album that I can just play, no skips. Give me, give me New Edition's album. The one where they introduced Johnny Gill. I'm trying to remember the name of it. New Edition album with the Johnny Gill on it. I think this was like their 19 Heartbreak, 1980.
Mm.
Those two right there. Honestly, Heartbreak, full of bangers. Start to finish, you got the chance to know Johnny Gill in the sense of as being in the group. He was a solo artist, but this album right here definitely showed that New Edition was grown. They were grown men.
That's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up. I'll give my take real quick. Then I'll have final boss lady finish it out, Miss Hip Hop herself. So this album is the most I'm messing with you, boss lady. You know I always mess with you. This is the most important album of my life because it was introduced to me when I was 7. So this album followed me everywhere I went. It introduced my dark demeanor because the album had it had such a dark tone to it, from the tone of the music to the beats, the production, the lyrics. I can't think of a more complete hip hop album besides Illmatic and Ready to Die. But we talk about a controversial hip hop album. And when we talk about a hip hop album that made shockwaves and is still timeless to this day, it's by two people. Okay. This album was released in 1996 and it's by Mobb Deep and it's called Hell on Earth. Hell on Earth by Mobb Deep is one of my all-time favorite albums. It's top 3 for me. The production for Hell on Earth embodied the gritty, dark times of New York rap in an effort where gangster rap, it went from just being hip hop to switching to the gangster struggle rap of the 90s. And because of that, I resonated with it so much that I remember buying the album twice just so when I played the one all the way through for years, I'd have a backup with. I don't have the album anymore because I could just stream it. But Hell on Earth was probably the most important album of my life. I'd put that up there with Illmatic. This one's gonna catch a lot of people off guard, but I don't care. This is a comfort album for me. Lights Out by Lil Wayne. Lights Out by Lil Wayne was the reason that and Kiss the Game Goodbye by Jadakiss, those two albums were the reason I started rapping in the first place. I could not, I learned what punchlines were listening to those two albums. And then when the Carter dropped, I was already in my rapping phase, so there's different albums that I give nods to. Cannabis, Rip the Jacker, that's another one. Little Brother, The Listening, and then the Chitlin Circuit 1.5, MF Doom. Hold on, I got that album still. It's somewhere. I literally have it saved somewhere, but I have an MF Doom right here. This album was the one right here. MF Doom, Food. This album right here that I am holding in my hands is still wrapped in plastic. Still wrapped. I will never open this. This was the album that gave me so much hope, so much life, because it was literally a man dressed as with a Dr. Doom mask rapping gritty lyrics. And since I was such a big nerd, MF Doom was like the soundtrack. Besides Mobb Deep, MF Doom was the soundtrack to my life. I couldn't, like, anybody who knows me knows that it was MF Doom, Sean Price, Mobb Deep, Jadakiss, Lil Wayne, Lil Brother, Eminem, Dead Prez, Trick Daddy, Master P, Elzai. These people spoke for me when I couldn't. And when I finally put out like my first rap album or whatever, I was like, I don't care if nobody listens to it. I said I was going to put the album out. And that's what I did. I have 2 albums out, and I have 2 guys on this show who do music, JT and Miami Great. So like, we music is the soundtrack to our life. But speaking of the soundtrack to our life, we're going to close out with a wonderful boss lady who's going to give us was her go-to. So whether it be pop, I don't care what genre it was. What is your go-to album? I don't care if it's who it is. What is your go-to album? I want to hear it. She's muted. I want to hear it. She's
really, for me, it's probably, hey, I don't think you're ready for it because you're probably gonna laugh at me. It's probably gonna be Circus by Britney Spears.
No, you know what the funny thing was? I was gonna say, so, I swear to God, I was like, she's gonna say Britney Spears. She's gonna say Britney Spears. Nah, there's nothing wrong with it. Blackout by Britney Spears was my.
I'm a big Britney Spears fan, so if you're on my timeline, I like Blackout, but it has a very it hurts me a lot to look at any songs from Blackout because that was the year that I lost my mother. And I always remember when I called my mom because she died in the hospital. When I was calling her phone after I spoke to her the last time, all I would hear, because back then, remember during those times in the early 2000s, we would have like those caller tones. So when you would call, you would hear the song. And I remember hearing a song from that album every time I called, and I never got her to answer again. So for me in that album, it's a touchy subject for me. Even though it's a good album, not my favorite album, but Circus for me was one of my favorites. But one thing I did want to go back to talk about sports, and you brought up Darian Young, but one of the biggest ones for me was Orlando Jordan. He came out as openly gay, and he had this whole pitch, and it was one of the reasons why he left, where he wanted to do a more adult type of entrance. And WWE pushed back on it and said no, so he brought it to TNA. And Prince was, and I can't remember the name of the female and the guy he had in his group at that time because it's been so long ago, but he would come out, give the girl a kiss, come out, give the guy a kiss. And some of them he would wear caution tape, and some of them he would have whipped cream all over his body. And that was the idea that he actually wanted to bring WWE. They pushed back on it. Kind of see why it is a little bit much, but that's what he brought to TNA. And of course, we have, our favorites. We also have people that are gay and bisexual, like Piper Nivens, like Tegan Knox. My favorite, my wife, Sonya Deville.
Mhm.
On the AEW side, of course, we have Sonya Kiss. We had Nyla Rose. And and she fought in the women's division, even though she is transgender, but they were showing that change. So even in sports, I mean, we talked about just one Darren Young. I just named about 6. And that just shows you, how we have evolved. Because, like Dallas did say earlier on in the show, was at one point, even on the wrestling side, it wasn't really accepted. It was not really accepted, and now it is. And of course, we had Shayna Baszler, which unfortunately was recently released. Shayna Baszler as well.
Yeah. I mean, like that goes without saying that one thing we take from Pride Month and Black music is in such a way they're both similar, because with Pride Month there was a lot of people who wanted to hold it down and wanted nothing to do with it, and did not want them to eat from the same table as them or eat at the same table with them. Things can be said about Black music as well, because that there was not at the time when the musicals were being done, we were being painted as animals. We were being sedated, we were being hated, we were being pushed away. The thing about Pride Month is they fought valiantly to a degree that they became undeniable. And now, because of that, Pride Month should be not just celebrated in June. It should be celebrated all year. It should be celebrated all year. Same with Black History Month. Black History Month is celebrated in February. It should be celebrated all year. So when you have people who are breaking down barriers for the gay community, when you have transgender athletes who are making the rounds and changing the culture, when you have individuals who laid down their life during the time of world wars for gay rights, those are the heroes, the forefathers who have laid their lives down to build the foundation of where we're at now. Guys like Magnus Hirschfeld, Henry Gerber, the list goes on. When we talk about these people, and there's a lot of people that I'm leaving out, because when I made a list of like all the accomplishments and all the barrier breaking, I would not have enough time to cover that. I would not have enough time. I didn't realize when doing my research a few weeks ago just how many barriers gays had to break, not just for Pride Month, but for themselves. And Black music the same way. You guys remember when Prince won an award for Best Black Song and he refused to go up on the stage because Black music wasn't treated like the rest of music? It was almost treated like a honorable mention. That spoke volumes. And when you had women like Diana Williams going out there, kicking down doors, talking to president and getting legislation to appreciate Black music, it showed just how influential we really are as a society. Now, it's not taboo, and it's not a surprise when we have artists come out as gay. It's not a surprise. It's comfortable, and it's okay to be that. That's like my brother is gay. That does not change my relationship with my brother. I don't care what my brother is. I love my brother. My cousin is gay. I have another cousin who is gay, one who is trans. I don't care. It's going to love you the same. What both sides were about was the ability to express who you are and be comfortable in it. The only thing that I gotta say, though, honestly, is why did it take so long to get to this point? We could have had this for decades and centuries. So I feel like I'm talking too much.
It's a easy answer to that. This country, especially, not just the world, but this country does not accept anything that does not look like them. So if it's not inside the makeup of the country, they're not going to accept it. And it's unfortunate. I mean, it's the same battle that we had to go through as black Americans here inside of this country. Not to say it's the same exact battle, but it's a battle nonetheless for acceptance. Um, Even when you break it down into the wrestling world, you know how hard it has been for people of the community to be accepted not only as black wrestlers but as gay or lesbian, LGBTQ plus. Like, there's a lot of people leading the way. My hat goes off every time I see this person on my timeline. Effie is probably one of the biggest proponents, one of the biggest advocates for pushing gay wrestlers, lesbian wrestlers, transgender. Like, he's literally the Harvey Milk of wrestling when I look at it like that, because he is literally making sure that we for people a part of the community, they're being recognized. Effie's been putting on Effie's Big Gay Brunch. I want to say for the better part of 7 years. I could be off. It could be more. I want to say the first time that I seen the Big Gay Brunch was either 2018 or 2019. But he's been doing this and showcasing lesbian, gay, transgender talents on his showcase just to be able to have that voice. And he's not the only one. You look at Anthony Bowens inside AEW. Giselle Saw from TNA, who's part of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling right now. Alex Kane, who came out as bisexual.
We interviewed him twice. We had him on the show.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep going on with the names, but there's a lot of talent. Mercedes Martinez. You can just keep going down the list. FIFO actually does it every year, doing this year, where they highlight all people a part of the LGBTQ plus community, and I commend them for that. Aubrey Edwards, the referee, Steph DeLander. She just got released. She was picked up with Shayna Baszler. What is her name? Just got released right before Shayna. God damn it. And it's going to kill me if I don't remember her name.
Is it Dakota Kai?
Well, you can put Dakota Kai on the list. No, she was a part of the faction with her.
Sonya Deville.
Sonya Deville. Yeah, Sonya Deville.
Yeah, Boss Lady. Yeah, Boss Lady. You just talked about her too.
Tony Storm.
Yeah, my wife.
Hogan. Speedball Mike Bailey, who's non-binary. Like, you can just keep going on and on with the people. But that's one thing, once again, leading back to what I was saying, getting recognized, showing your voice, being able to be heard, being able to be accepted. That's the reason why they have to put on these showcases. Should it be the case? No. Should LGBTQ plus wrestlers be able to wrestle on any given card? Yes. The same thing that goes to black wrestlers. Black wrestlers should be accepted on any card. But we put everything in a box because, well, this doesn't go with this, so we don't want this inside of our box, but we'll go ahead and give you this. Like, it shouldn't work like that, and it's unfortunate that it is.
Well, yes, well said. Well said. I agree wholeheartedly. And basically that's what we're doing right now. We making it known. Speaking of the phrase, this what we doing right now. Speaking of making ourselves aware and known, we have another guest coming to the show. Hailing from the West Coast, here to add some spice and one of the focal points and the pillars of sports for you. We have main event John Watson.
Busiest
John,
man in all podcasting over here, bro.
bro, you all right over
Nah.
there? You good? I see. I just see him up and moving right now. Bro came into the fold. John, you good? Yeah, everybody having bad connections tonight.
Yeah, I think it's just a program, to be honest.
Hey, all I did was just do the same thing I've done before. I can't blame my internet connection. It's just StreamYard in general.
I think it's just the early time. It's like, nope, we need to wait until StreamYard warms up around 6 o'clock.
Yeah, the server.
Most people use it. Most people use it like around what the hours of like 6 and like 10, right? So
yeah, servers in the freezer right now. Servers definitely in the freezer. I forgot. I think we got maybe one more person on the way. I feel like I'm talking too much, but
okay.
moving on from that. Wait, boss lady, you had something, didn't you?
Yeah, I do have some things. And then as far as like for me personally, you know, I went to a school where, you know, being gay or being bisexual was everywhere. And that same school was a school that gave you your Nicki Minaj, that gave you your Alicia Keys, was a school that I went to. And that was a heavy thing for us because for those who don't know, I wanted to be a Broadway star. And I was at Lincoln Center growing up. But for us in high school, it was not down upon. That was part of where our school was because we were a performing arts school. You know, we auditioned to be in that school. It was one of the most hardest schools to get into in New York, at least at that time. Maybe still now. I don't know. But I just wanted to go ahead and just kind of shine light, you know, on that. And also, before Alicia Keys, she holds a special place to my heart, even though, you know, I'm on the other side of music. Was the restaurant where she shot her famous video at was a restaurant that one of my mom's friends had owned. And she came to us and had the idea to have her music video shot down there in Harlem for us. So yeah. And as far as going for, you know, allies, you know, a great ally that we kind of pass by is Marlon Wayans. He's a very famous ally because his son is gay. And for those who have seen Marlon Wayans, he kind of has a more animated personality. It's kind of like, you know, where he's always kind of been. He's always kind of been that dorky, funny guy, even outside of like his roles as being an actor. But he is a very famous ally. It didn't come on my timeline this year, but last year and previous years before, you know, he was taking photos of him with the gay flag, and with other rainbow colored items like little plastic balls and things like that to show he was an ally for his son because it was so important to him.
That's what's up, man. That's definitely what's up. No, yeah, I like I said, I aim to hear more of what you have, boss lady, just because, like I said, when we started this was, I wanted you to be the focal point of this and the center of this since you embody this. And John, are you with us? We good? We good, John? You up and running? All right, good. We're gonna bring you in. We got you in. And I see another gentleman back there. Okay, he just got done doing a prison bid, so we're gonna bring him on the show. Let me tell you about this gentleman right here. He is probably I'd call him like my twin brother, just from the South, just because of how much respect that I have for him. We actually got cool after we had a heated argument on Twitter. And I always bring this up because he hates hearing about it, but I love this guy so much. He actually just knocked out an incredible interview. I'm not going to reveal who it's with because it's not my business to do that. That's his. But he hails from Atlanta, Georgia. well, hails from Georgia. I don't know, by way of Atlanta, but he has his own show, JB versus the World. Moved to Philly now. Just doing great work. I love this dude. I consider him a great friend. Yeah, we got JB, man. What's going on, JB?
What's going on, family? How y'all doing?
Well, we doing pretty good, man. We doing pretty good. So bringing you and John in. We were talking a little bit about Pride Month and then Black Music Month. So I'll bring you guys in. So I'll start with you, JB, and pass it to you, John. Obviously, you grew up in the South. How has Southern music and gay pride been such a focal point and an identity of Southern music? Tell me about like the impact that it had that you saw when you were down south.
Man, listen, man. You can see the smile on my face because I'm like, this is that's something near and dear to me personally. Um, I was in the thick of it, like for like a lot of the southern movements that other people talk about and hear about. Like I was young, but I was there for Freaknik. You know what I'm saying? I was there for the crunk era. I was there for the snap era. Like, and just being at the epicenter of a lot of those changes and seeing how people come from, like as Jermaine Dupri says, so from miles and wild just to come and get a taste of this ATL style. like it like it was just what I knew. And the South always had something to say. Outkast made sure everybody knew about that. And yeah, like it was just it was a wonderful thing. And anytime I've gone out of Atlanta, whether I was there for college or visiting or even now like living in a different city, man, just seeing the influence that the South had and still has on like music and the populace in general, man. Like I don't know, man. Like I'll say it till my face turns blue, man. Forever, I love Atlanta because like it's a city that raised me. I can't imagine myself without the influence. And as far as how pride figures in, um, man, there's people talk about like, oh, the South is like Atlanta's like one of the gay cities in the nation. Like, so
And
And
okay, like and people, I think people make a little bit more of it than what it is. Like 'cause from where I was living, like I didn't see that often. I have friends, and I even have an uncle who are LGBT, and and my philosophy is and always has been live and let live. That's your business. Like what you like. I'm sorry for cursing. Like what you eat don't make me shit. Like Like as long as you're happy, it's healthy, you're healthy, you're not toxic. I don't care what you do, and that's the same thing with any differing opinion that most people have about most things in this life. Like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm gonna go to like all of us are wrestling friends, wrestling heads here. Like, oh my god, I can't believe AEW did that, and you're a WWE fan. It's like, well, do you really care for real, or is it just in this instance that we're talking about it, and after it's over, you're gonna move on?
mm, mm.
mm, mm,
Like, is this really a factor? Like, are you going to be thinking about this 2 hours from now? No. I mean, of course, like in this, and to speak for the sake of transparency, y'all know I'm half Nigerian, and they're very old school in their way of thinking, so they're very archaic. Some of my family members are archaic in that way, and that's their business, that's their bag or whatever. So, I had a friend, a good friend in high school who came out as bi and then eventually transitioned trans. And I just took it upon myself to ask questions,
mm-hmm,
like not to judge, not to be rude, not to belittle, but just so I know, because this is my friend, this is somebody I care about, this is somebody I've known about for years, and I want to know what they're going through. I want to know how they got from point A to point B with this, and learn about it in a way that's not harmful to them. And through them, I've learned so much. Baby, you want to hand me that real quick? Because this is very poignant. Because yeah, like they're my friends still. Like it doesn't matter if like what they identify as or who they marry or who they date. You know what I'm saying? That's my people still. You know what I'm saying? And this is
mm-hmm,
what we're talking about the other day. We're talking about people.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Human
saying?
beings. Human
Human
beings.
beings, and I feel like that trumps anything. That trumps color. That trumps um, orientation. That trumps anything less than you being a good person. So if anybody asks like where JB stands on the spec, where it stands on, hey, I got y'all. Y'all my peoples. Like live and
Yes.
let live. Love and love. Love is love. Y'all do y'all thing, man. It don't make me no never mind.
Hey man, thank you for telling us that. And yeah, it's not to question that, it's always for understanding and for support, because again, we're always about supporting each other, and because it's a human emotion. And you're right, being a human being and human emotion trumps everything else, because at the end of the day, we have to learn to love each other. Now, that's in the South, where a lot of people say that it's, it's a heavy thing out there. Let's go to the West Coast now, because also on the West Coast, it's a big, big, big movement out there. And John, with the appreciation of Black music and the influence that the NWA had, Ice Cube, E40, all those people with Black music and with gay pride, the West Coast and the South were kind of like parallel, because they had a big following for both movements. And with you being out in the West Coast, same question. How was it out there, and what was the influence that you saw that West Coast music, not only just Black music, but the artists who also came out during that time had an effect that you saw change? And you're muted, so I can't unmute you.
Hold on.
You
Here
good?
we go. So I'm born in '84. I probably got into hip hop maybe like 2 years. So I want to say, obviously, I missed NWA's heyday, but obviously being from LA and being where I grew up on the East Side, you know the history of NWA. You know the history of Straight Outta Compton, F the Police, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, MC Randy, J. Ella, Eazy-E, rest in peace. For me, when the Chronic dropped, that was, and Dr. Dre obviously parting ways from NWA. He brought on Snoop. We learned about DLC. We learned about Warren G. We learned about Nate Dogg, Das, Corrupt. Growing up, albums of all time. My favorite album of all time is All Eyes on Me. First like double CD we ever heard. First time you see an album where it was two CDs, and their whole influence on the West Coast as far as hip hop was just major. You brought up E40, you brought up the Bay Area. Obviously, E40 invented slang, and you think about "Hope I Gonna Go Back" is my favorite E40 song of all time. And when him and Too Short did that versus, that
That versus was
I
fire.
was talking to this about this the other night. That was my favorite verses of all time to the culture of hip hop and rap. When as far as with the movement, as with the LGBTQ movement, my daughter's mother used to work in Beverly Hills. She actually worked at the courthouse where the first same sex outside of her job. She used to work at Beverly Hills courthouse. And it's been, and I've had people, my family members who are in the community. My mom tells a story all the time. My cousin Nancy, who was my mother's first cousin, we lost her son about 10 years ago after he lost a battle with AIDS. And at the time, and we've had and I think when the AIDS epidemic happened, people were still trying to figure out, is this like a death sentence? And some people still feel that way, but then you got the conspiracy theorists who think about, well, why the hell did Miss Magic Johnson still alive and blah, blah, blah. But the community, if you go in certain areas in LA, Santa Monica, West Hollywood, Santa Monica Boulevard, they're heavily prided communities. The pride community happens every year. The parade happens every year in West Hollywood. They broadcast it on local television. So it's been around. People are embracing the community. And I have people in my family who are in the community. So I don't judge. I but I will say this the same way, and the way we want, everyone should always be embraced for being who they are, and we have to have an open mind to be open-minded on anything that someone who's different. We might not look at them like there's something wrong with them.
That's what's up. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
That's all I got.
No, that's all good. It's all good. It's all good. We like I said, we sometimes get into a rhythm, and we're all speaking from experiences, and everybody has their own experience. We're going to move on to one additional thing. Actually, oh, I'm sorry, boss lady, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, John had a lot of good points, and he brought up, the AIDS epidemic, which I'm from New York, and it was very heavy, you know, out there during one time. It was heavy in cities, and he brought up people like Magic Johnson, right? And Magic Johnson was like one of the first people who came out and said, well, who they said that he had AIDS, and that he was like pretty much like you couldn't catch it from him, right? But now we're in 2025, and now the medicines now will make you undetectable if you use it right. So that medicine had always existed. It just was available to the rich and wealthy during that time back in the day, during that epidemic. Stuff came out recently, with P. Diddy saying that he had it since supposedly since 2011, but he's undetectable. And so, I mean, the stigma came out that, hey, mostly gays had, HIV and AIDS. And they attributed to it being a gay disease, when the reality was, the fact actually legitimately is that one, theorists believe that it was made in a lab, and two, the only reason why it was present in that community, because the reality is there's less likely you're going to use protection because there's no risk of pregnancy. That's the answer. It wasn't because someone was gay or bi, it's because there was no risk of pregnancy. And that's why the HIV and AIDS virus was so rapid in those communities. So I just want to highlight that, because a lot of gays, that was what they were known for during the epidemic was, hey, you guys spread AIDS, you're killing people. No, it was because literally it was a less chance you need protection, just because there's no risk of pregnancy is really what it was. And it's not about being gay or being lesbian or being bisexual.
Understood. Yeah. That's, again, I love hearing information like that, and I love it when
and we are. I want to ask the also, when Easy E caught it, I was gonna go right. I think that's what I was thinking. When
go for it.
Yeah, go ahead with that, because that's a big thing. So yeah, go ahead, John.
I'll talk about the piggyback what Boss Lady was saying. The piggyback what she was saying, when Easy E caught AIDS, it was like, what? Like, and then, but if you knew the story, I mean, you pretty much learned what it was going at. If you watch Straight Outta Compton, they was partying every night, women here, women there. So, because it was theories about was Eazy-E on the down low. I never heard that personally, but if you go based off Straight Outta Compton, they was doing chicks in every city from here to Timbuktu, and VH1 did a documentary on NWA narrated by Chris Rock called "The World's Most Dangerous Group." If y'all go back and find it, and Eazy-E just admitted he liked that sex, and they used to call themselves thrill seekers, and Eazy was one of those dudes. He didn't like using protection, so he would call Dre and Cube and Yella and Ren rats, and that stood for Rappers Against Thrill Seekers. So basically, because they would go into these different cities, meeting these different chicks, and they would wrap it up, but Eazy wasn't. And then we see the infamous scene in Straight Outta Compton when he ends up in the hospital, and the doctors is telling him what his diagnosis was, and what was the first thing he said? But I ain't no faggot. But like saying, you don't have to be one to catch AIDS or HIV, like Boss Lady said. You can, any of us could catch it, but he was going around doing so many chicks that you never know who he could have came across. Look at all the scenes in Straight Outta Compton when they was having all the parties at the Wet and Wild parties. They was having parties like crazy, and it's a bunch of half naked women in there, and they seeing rap stars, and they want to get a piece of the pie. So, like it was like when it still feel to this day, like till Boss Lady educated me on that. It still felt at that time, it was like, okay, it was like I said earlier, it was like a death sentence, but it really wasn't if you educated yourself. If you even go back and watch the documentary Magic did called The Announcement, he had to educate himself on it because they wanted him to go be like the face of it, and he really didn't know what to do, and he didn't want to go out there and looking like an idiot saying stuff that he don't know, he's not educated about. And he got educated about it. He was talking to also the kids who were diagnosed with it. And I was, like I said earlier, there's still people who this day still think that he doesn't have AIDS or HIV. And you have people who are on the show who are part of that documentary who can contest that he still does.
I see. That's the part that I have to agree with, because when my cousin caught it, he was nowhere near gay. He was not, but during that time, like his brother was gay, but he didn't. This is so fucked up to bring up, but my cousin, because he had AIDS, he was turned away by his friends because they all thought he was gay, and he wasn't. So his brother, who was, came in support of him, and then down the line, like they became a well-oiled machine. And then my brother had his brother had to go educate his friends on what was actually going on, and he's doing a lot better now. But I feel like, again, whenever something happens to those individuals, we always like throw the fire on gay people, and it's never been that. And that bothers me to a degree, because I've seen it happen to individuals I know firsthand, and how they respond to it is very defensive, because of course, if they're not on that side of the spectrum, then they're going to feel some kind of way. If they are on that side of the spectrum, they're still going to feel some kind of a way. So it's like, we have to get better with how we communicate, and we got to stop learning how to point the finger at other people when these situations happen, because there are a lot of things that happen out of our control, and we shouldn't point the blame at them. I will say, when my cousin transitioned, I was very interested in understanding what led to that decision. And I wasn't asking to question, I was actually asking to understand, because it was to do something like that is so intriguing and fascinating to me. I got to know. I have to know, because I like to be in someone's head to understand why they think the way that they do. And it's not a mental illness. It's not a problem. It's a brave form of expression that someone's willing to take and go the extra level in order to basically reveal who they really are. And part of that is that we now have a community that accepts that, and we have people who accept that. And we're still not where we need to be right now. We're still not where we need to be. It needs to be universally accepted on a molecular level, but we're slowly but surely getting to that point. Again, I wanted to point out, again, big shout out back to Diana Williams. Like I said, she's the mother of Black music. She has the House Concurrent Bill 509, and that she helped co-write, which got legislated by the United States government. And part of that now is we have June is now littered with so much pride of different cultures now, but it's funny how it all centers back to the forefront. So I wanted to ask, because I haven't heard from him much, because we've kind of all been all over the place, and that's kind of how we need to be. Miami, I meant to ask you one thing. So you've done music as well. With doing the music part, like, what's the best thing that you've noticed about Black music and how it has reached a global audience? What's the biggest impact you think Black music has made on the global audience? That's a nice cat. What's the cat's name?
Oh, you want to be Cash?
You talking to me?
I was talking to JB.
Oh,
but
not the cat again.
Yeah, this is Soka.
Miami, you with us? Miami there? All right, we'll come back to him in a minute.
Like he might have froze.
He might have froze. I see him moving, but I don't hear any audio. We'll give it a second. What you said? The cat's name is Soka?
Ahsoka, yeah.
Ahsoka. Not Hisoka, right?
Ahsoka, like the Star Wars character.
Yeah, you know where I was going with that.
Oh.
As a Hunter reference.
Oh God, no. Oh God, no.
That's why I was like, oh, it's like us. So,
Nah, she ain't no clown, bro.
No, definitely not.
Nah, she just my little YN, bro.
I will say though, like, having you guys here, I learn a lot more about all of your experiences, especially Boss Lady, because like I said, we wanted to make her the focal point. That's why we're letting her do the most talking. She's the biggest one in the culture who embodies what this is all about. And I just want to thank you guys for coming on the show. You know what I'm saying? So we love all of you. I love you guys. I don't care what it takes. You know, we gotta learn to love each other, man. We gotta learn to appreciate each other. Miami, are you with us?
Too, man, except for Trail.
What about Trail?
I love y'all too, except for Trail.
What's wrong with Trail? Is he? Oh, okay. My bad. I was like, wait a minute. I know he's not. He's a Saints fan. That's why. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
But I am gonna try to answer Dallas's question, and it may not be a good answer, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it's me, right? So Dallas had an answer about, you know, what a question, I should say, about what makes someone want to do that and come to the decision when they want to transition, right? That was his question. I think for us to understand why is for you to look at someone who is gay, not so much on the bisexual side, but it's gay and it's male, that's not transitioning and is not planned to, but is an openly gay male. There are some that are dominant. There are some that are more feminine. Even though the feminine one does not plan to transition, and they're still, you know, dressing like, you know, masculine and all that stuff, look at the differences in them. Their voice is different from a person that's straight voice. Their
Mm.
mannerisms are different. That's not really the same thing on the lady side. Now we do have some, that are on the more masculine sides, we known as, studs, things like that. But really, for a man that is more so not bisexual, that is gay, a lot of them, the mannerisms change, the voices change, because it's to be what on the more feminine side. So even when someone is not transitioning, for you to be an ally, you have to understand. We have to understand. I had the same conversation with someone in this room who I guess is frozen. Is when you are an ally and you are friends with someone who is male and they are gay, you have to understand that you're not talking to more so a homeboy. You're talking to someone that is a homeboy and also more so on the feminine side. Because if that wasn't true, they would not have different mannerisms. They wouldn't have different ways that they express themselves. The more uh what's the word? The more outgoing personality that they wouldn't have, and they wouldn't have that change in voice and tone.
Mm.
Because those type of mannerisms is not something that you really see with a straight man. You're looking at someone who is not going to transition, but they're kind of, and you have to understand that. You have to understand that. A lot of times, they want to have, that girl talk, with someone like me about hair and nails. That's not something a straight man would typically want to be engaged with. It's not just about that person just liking a person of the same sex. It's them now embodying, liking what we've known to be feminine attributes. So people need to go ahead and actually remember that once again, when they want to be an ally and they want to be a friend of someone that is a gay male, and especially those who are more on the feminine side. You got to be open to that, because if you're not open to that, then you can't be an ally. You need to go home, do your research, and then become an ally. Um, so I just wanted to go ahead and make that statement out there, because now that I said it, I'm pretty sure you're gonna like look back and realize it now. Like, yeah, that is true, right? Yeah, Miami, I see your hand up,
Oh
but
boy.
but before we go to Miami, based on what John said, like, yeah, we all saw the movie Straight Outta Compton. We saw the story of Eazy-E and about, how he died and he's suffering from AIDS and all that good stuff. And now in 2025, like we talked about Magic Johnson and people, who have AIDS and are now living good, long, healthy lives. And we're now at a point where we're not in that epidemic anymore, because we have, medicine that makes you undetectable. There's awareness. And of course, now there's a newer thing called PrEP. But we also have to realize that now, where we're moving more out of, it's in the gay communities that we saw back in the day, and now more in the more heterosexual communities, because now you have the more openness of things like OnlyFans, things of booking, people flying out, to see girls or to see men. You're now opening things to that. Well, back in the day, it was just what about you? Hey, I want to have a good time. I'm going to go out and find a person to have a good time with. Where now it's more accessible. You don't have to do that anymore. You can literally go online and go to them or have them come to you. That is where we're going to really be at in the next few years. And we've already seen that because that list came out about those cities. Atlanta is one. I think New York was one. I know Miami was one. Not that Miami, but Miami, Florida, was also one as well that came out. Um, on that list, and not saying for HIV, but just for STDs in general. And remember, I'm in the DC area, and for a long time, DC was number one in the country for years because it was so small. So just think about that. It's not more so. We have moved past just it being this attached to being gays back in the epidemic. It's because people are more open to having more casual partners, and that's the risk that we now take, because at the end of the day, we just don't know. A good example of that will be the R. Kelly story, where he didn't have AIDS, but he had herpes, and he was giving that around and then tell people. One of his ex-wives came out and said that that he gave it to her. And while you don't die from herpes, thank God, but it's a lifelong type of disease, because you just purely don't know. And when it comes to STDs and AIDS, yes, you can go down to your CVS and buy a kit, but that kit's gonna cost you what, $100. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna take the word of that person and take that risk. And then now that's the door that you open it to. Also, back in the epidemic times, there were a lot of babies that were born with that exposure to HIV and AIDS because the mother carried it and passed it on. I actually had a cousin when I was little, a female cousin, who died from it because her mom passed it on to her at birth. So yeah, because you can get it, by passing on to the baby in the womb, or also through breast milk as well. So those are things, to definitely keep in mind, is that, well, now, she probably would have lived in this day and age because there's new modern medicine, but, she didn't make it during that time, and it was just passed on by, her mother.
Understood. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Like I said, yeah, these conversations need to be had. This type of conversation needs to be heard. And again, thank you for educating. Like I said, whenever I need to be educated on that type of subject, I'll always come to you. That's something you're extremely well versed on. Let's try this one more fucking time. Miami, are you here with us? Because I see him frozen in time. Do you remember the time?
Y'all hear me?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you, but you're frozen though.
You're definitely frozen. Let that
Y'all
go.
can't hear me again, yeah.
I can hear it.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hear you. We can hear you.
Show enough.
Stream.
I would love to hear from you at any time. What you got for Boss Lady?
Yeah, 'cause he definitely had a he
Can y'all hear
definitely had
me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
No.
Hello.
Uh-oh. Yeah, you're gonna have to leave and come back. That type
Yeah,
of
I
time.
see. Yeah, he got cooked. Well, all right. I mean, I was trying to at least hear from him before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Um,
I would like to add something though.
Yeah.
please do.
Yeah, because growing up, I think what it was one of the biggest things from today to a lot of people who are old enough to know better is the lack of education and, like you said, the lack of willing to learn. Just from growing up and saying certain things and thinking certain behaviors might elicit certain things, and the phobias and the weirdness around the perceived weirdness around certain things, you have to step out of yourself. Like you have to want to understand somebody else's point of view, and I mean, not just for themselves, but for yourself as well, so you can make informed decisions. You have to. It's all choice to be a better person to your fellow man or fellow woman. Like, I don't know. I can't sit up here and say that I haven't done things or said things before I was educated, before I had to take a step back, or before somebody had to pull me aside and like, "Hey, bro, this," and I'm like, "Oh shit." I had no idea, knowing what idea what that kind of toxic mindset was bringing, or what it was like, what I was spewing at the time at my younger age. But like
It was
you
taught,
grow,
though. It was
it
taught
was
to you.
definitely taught, and or not necessarily, or maybe necessarily not taught. Just it wasn't around. It wasn't like a thing. Nobody was around to teach me, so it was just something like that's based on perception,
Yep.
like social things. Especially like in the South, especially in the South growing up, because there are definitely pockets. Like I tell people, like if you're in Georgia, If you're not in Atlanta, Athens, Columbus, Augusta, some pockets of Valdosta or Columbus, like it's a crapshoot. Everywhere else in between.
Mm.
So, and it's not just for homophobia; it's also for racism as well. Like you are taking a risk.
Hey, yeah. And it's just like it's like that up in the Midwest too. It's extremely out of pocket in the Midwest.
Yeah,
The homophobia in the Midwest is like absolutely ridiculous, and
yeah.
the racism. I live in Ohio. Obviously, the KKK is still here. For some reason, we haven't eradicated them yet, but whatever. Um, my thing is that that was when you see certain things and you see the way that people you're around interact like that, it becomes the norm. And
Yeah.
I'll be the first to tell you, I'm right in that category with you, JB, because my ignorance allowed me to react the exact same way that you speak of, because I was not properly educated. And because of this, some of the things, and again, I'm a battle rapper. Okay. So a lot of the things that I said were ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But I didn't have nobody to educate me. Now I changed the way that I write because of those type of situations. And when you have somebody that actually educates you and forces you to acknowledge the wrongdoing that you had growing up and acknowledge your errors, you kind of have to go back and be like, damn, I if I would have known this back then, I wouldn't have done that. But it takes maturity to reach that point. Miami, I am ready to hear from you because you've been in the chamber long enough. Like it's been the Detox album. Boss Lady has made
I've been fighting with StreamYard. I've been fighting with StreamYard for the last 30 minutes.
StreamYard been taking us down one by
I have a
one.
lot of points.
Go for it.
I got a lot of points, and I hope this doesn't come off controversial. Yes, I wasn't educated, but I'm Jamaican and I'm Haitian, and in Jamaican culture, it's really, really looked down on if you are gay, you want to be transsexual, you want to be whatever you want to be. They literally cast you out. Educated on a lot of things um, of the people who I was hanging around, but I was informed. But I think that's what I was saying in the beginning of this live. Being an ally is more of a curse than a gift, if I would say, because I'm not going to try to get us canceled. It's more of a curse than a gift because just because you don't understand doesn't mean if I'm talking to someone, I like you. I'm doing this because I'm trying to be a kind person. I'm a good hearted person. I'm the type of person that I will give you my last dollar and won't care. I will give you my last penny and won't care. So we have to understand, we have to separate just judging someone based off of just being around someone. Just because they're around someone doesn't mean they're the same too. I'm being like that because I'm a good-hearted person. Because no one else is going to treat you the way I treat you because you're already treated as our ancestors was treated. Let's just be real. Let's just keep it real. You're the same way. The only thing you're not being is hung and whipped. That's the only maybe two things that's not being done to you. But everything else is being done to you. They want to take so many things away from you. Marriage. They want to take away the voting rights. They want to take so much stuff away from you because mostly, let's just keep it real, most of the gay community is black, African American. That's why they want to restrict us. And I say in our community, we just came off of Juneteenth. It's Black Music Month. It's Pride Month. That we have to come together as a community and stop. We the main focus. We the main ones that say, ah, they gay. Ah, da da da. We're mainly
and they sit back and they watch us do it to ourselves. We have to be the ones to be the first ones to stop doing that to our own people. If we're not going to stop doing it, they're not going to stop doing it. We have to fight for our people, for Black History Month, for all these rights they're trying to take away from us and the gay community. If we don't, then the rest is going to be history. It's almost about to be dead. It's a dead art, and we're the reason why we let it happen. We let them take something that was ours away from us, and more things like this are going to get took away from us. And I think if we don't sit up and fight for pride and Black music, it's going to get took away, and the rest they're not even going to have it in history books. There will be no history books because they're going to make sure it's gone. That's just my comments on everything. I don't know. I didn't hear the question. I know somebody had asked me a question, but that was just the points I heard when I did actually get to hear what I had heard.
All right, Boss Lady has another point she wants to make. So the point guard of this show, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna build off what JB said. I'm talk just a little bit about what Miami said in regards to music. So I know JB talked about how a lot of people show a lot of ignorance towards gay and being bisexual. Remember, when we were growing up, we were openly using the F word. We were openly saying when we didn't like something, it was, oh, that's so gay. That was something we grew up saying as children because it was cool. It was okay. It was a way to say you didn't like something without cursing back when we were like in elementary school. Now in 2025, if you say those terms, we have evolved so much that it's discrimination. It's the same thing with the R word. We grew up calling things that we didn't like the R word. And now, what is it now? You say that now. If you say it in a work setting, you're instantly gonna see HR because it's now a discriminatory word. So that shows you that there is some movement. And this is not new. These classes on discrimination, they have existed for years now. The anti-discrimination laws have existed for decades. But we are just now seeing little small movements like that now. As far as what Miami said about just Black music, one of the things that I grew up with was before I went to that school we talked about in high school, right? But when I was in elementary school, I went to elementary school that was in the middle of Harlem, and that school we didn't have books, we didn't have chairs, we didn't have instruments, we didn't have anything. And during that time, they were trying to raise money for a lot of schools in cities and in Black communities to get funding for music. I forgot the name of that very famous charity that works on paying for instruments in schools. So if someone knows, please say it real quick.
I want to say Eminem so bad, but I know that ain't it.
I forgot what it was called, but that organization they work very hard on funding for getting funding for music in schools because a lot of schools they couldn't afford to pay instruments, and I was in one of those schools because they were trying to take away it from us, and it was crazy because I had a music teacher, and she was unlike nothing. Like this lady was super old. She was white. She will be the sweetest thing, but the moment you talk when she's talking or you get rowdy, she'll start throwing stuff, right? She literally will throw things at you. It was just crazy. She was absolutely just nuts. But one thing she did say, and she was a white woman, she said that, if you go to a school that's in downtown, they have all these instruments. They have drums, they have guitars, they have trumpets. Everyone knows back then the most expensive things that you can buy as far as instruments wore horns, right? Were horns. And remember, the horns are very, now, even though you might see them in, school bands now and college bands, but remember, back in the day, instruments like horns and trombones were more associated with jazz in the Black community. So they tried their best not to buy us those instruments. You know what they was giving us? They was giving us harmonicas and kazoos and shit like that. Shit that wasn't meant to form, deep jazz music. I grew up, in Harlem. My school was literally in walking distance from where Langston Hughes grew up. So I'm from a very rich culture, very rich. And so just seeing that and growing up and just remember how they tried their best to defeat us. I grew up in a school that was so underfunded that we didn't have books, and that literally, and I kid you not, I'll be on the right side, you'll be on the left side. I read one page, you read a page, and we're turning that page together because we didn't have the funding for books, for crayons, for anything, because they tried their best to not see us be successful. I remember this one time, and my mom was so strong. That's why who I am, not just because I'm me, but because my mom taught me how to be strong. And it was so simple. It was back in the day, we had wooden chairs, as our chairs for school, but they were so old that, they had splintered and weathered, and they, was cracked wood. I grew up in a city where you had to wear uniform, right? Little me had the little white button-up T-shirt and the little short little skirt, and you had to wear stockings, you had to wear shoes, and that chair would continuously rip our stockings, and our parents had to continuously go and buy us new stockings every 2 days. And my mom fought and said, you guys need to bring us some new chairs. She actually marched herself right down to the public school board and requested that we move from wooden chairs to these blue metal chairs, so we didn't have to continuously have rips and holes in our stockings. My mom did that. And I watched her do it. These are the things that people don't talk about that we grew up with. We didn't have juice in the schools. All we had was milk. And I remember this one time I drank milk and lasagna, and it sent me to the ER room because that was what they were feeding us in these Black schools, because they wanted us to not be successful. They wanted us not to be artists. And that's what they did to us.
And because of that, we found a way to overcome that. You found a way to overcome that. Your mom made the necessary strides. She basically put her foot down everybody's neck and made those people listen. But it's stories like that you just heard that is a commemoration and a prime example of not taking what someone gives you and making more out of the situation and fighting for a right, for a better purpose. This is the embodiment of Pride Month. This is the embodiment of the Black struggle. This is the embodiment of Black music. What you just heard, that is the embodiment of it. From everybody's different stories, it's rooted in music, rooted in revolution, rooted in action. And that is the focal point of what this is all about. So I want to thank everybody for coming on the show. Obviously, you can catch Miami and Final Boss Lady on the Talk It Up podcast. Actually, if you guys want to go ahead and promote, go ahead at any point. I don't care who does it. Go for it.
Ladies first.
I'm gonna let Miami promote most of it because he's been having a lot of issues. Well, I'm gonna let you go most of it because I know you haven't able to talk much in this one. I know, it's what you want to do. But for those who don't know, I will be joining Big Mike in Chair Shots this month for next month for Women's Evolution. As far as I'll talk it up stuff, I'm gonna let Miami do that because we haven't heard from him so much today because of all the issues with StreamYard.
Go ahead, Miami.
No, I think the conversation that we had, everyone had made some of the points I made. When it comes to music for me, everyone knows the background of music for me. I got the chance to meet Nipsey Hussle before he passed away. Shouts out to my boy DJ MVP. MVP. He hit me up on Instagram this morning. Ross, the whole Maybach music crew helped me out when I was doing music. So music is a special place for me. It was a way to get out of the situation. And like I said, we got to keep promoting our pride people, music people. We got to people because we can talk it, but if we don't do it, it's going to die. If you don't see it, then it's just you're not paying attention. We're going to do Talk It Up this week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, hopefully. I was currently in school last week, taking care of some business for some stuff that we got coming up for Talk It Up. I hope you guys stick around to see the major news that me and Final Boss got coming up for the winter time. Shirts are coming out soon for DWE and Talk It Up. Maybe some Final Boss gear, lady gear. Who knows?
No, hold on now. We need those chains like Sports for You has now. Come on, we ain't live until we get them.
Hey, I gotta hit up John for that, man. I gotta make my West Coast call for that. He got that, man. So I gotta hit John up. So we'll see about that too. But other than that, but we back this week and we back and we're gonna be up and running. So other than that, thank you Dallas for having me on and CCN and stuff. Thank y'all for having us.
No problem. Hey John, speaking of John, what you got coming up this week? Sports for You.
All right, Tuesday. CN DW family, you all will be invited. So y'all pull up. Y'all ain't got to stay the whole time. Come by for 5 minutes and celebrate. Beat Marky Nick celebrate 40 episodes of Sports for You. We'll just do a show Tuesday. We don't know if we'll do a show Friday because that is 4th of July. And then Wednesday, Sports for You Wrestling with me and Trail. We already got a good lineup of guests looking ahead to Evolution and Saturday night's main event. So we got a lot going on with the family. So yeah, a 400 episode Tuesday.
Woo! Shit.
Thank y'all.
I'm pretty sure John is trying to have a run with Rob of being like the longest.
Yeah, they fighting for first place for most episodes. I'll say that though.
What?
JB, what you got going on?
Well, they been around the longest, ain't it? So hey, they can win. Y'all got it.
Meanwhile, Talking Up is like episode 9? Yeah, we got like over 300 more to catch up with.
we like on episode 63 and shit. Like we ain't caught up to them.
Oh man, I ain't being dumb.
Y'all get there. Y'all get there. Y'all dope because y'all dope. Y'all gonna get there because y'all dope.
We try to catch up. We try.
I got like
convince John to come over here, so we
took us 5 years.
And catch up with
y'all.
And then on top of that, John has 2 different ones. He has a sports for you and a wrestling for you. I always say that to Miami. I'm like, man, you ain't got shit on John, bro. That man run 2 different companies, bro.
Oh man,
never seen nothing like it.
JB, what you got coming up?
Man, y'all talking about like numbers. I got like 181 videos on my channel, and some of them are shorts and like stuff from WrestleMania. So like it's bloated. It's
It's
bloated
super
numbers.
bloated.
But I am getting back in my content bag. Um, I'm about to step out and show some of y'all like what I've been up to. Been in the kitchen cooking. So Ironheart dropped the first 3 episodes this week. I'll be doing individual reviews of each episode. They're dropping the last 3 on Tuesday, so I'll be doing reviews of those when those come out. My MomoCon content I'll be starting to drop this week. Starting with my interview with Luke Gallows, who I just happened to run into at MomoCon by pure happenstance. I'll be following up with the interview with let's see, some of the creators who did some of the animatronics for Regal Cinemas. Peter Raimundo, who was one of the people responsible for the creation of Stitch and a lot of other Disney animations. He's an artist. He was artist over there. I also have an interview with Nolan North, who's most famous for being the voice of Nathan Drake from Uncharted. And I also have an interview with Rev Run.
Yes.
No, excuse me, not Rev Run. DMC. I'm sorry, DMC.
We know. We know. You narrowed it down. You all good.
Yeah.
What else
But
you got?
yeah, and so yeah, like I'm getting back in the bag. I know it's been a minute, but so we back in the chair. So let's take this thing on, drive on out.
Nah, this is what I like to hear. Humble Roses, we just got our regular episodes. We got our interview with Teddy Long coming next month, so probably towards the end of July. Yes, boss lady, I said that correctly. Teddy Long will be on the show. We will actually go live. So if
I'm sorry, which Teddy Long?
Former.
You mean Mr. You got to take on the Undertaker.
Yeah, Mr. That Teddy Long?
Yeah. Wait 1 minute.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
you know, don't skip over that. Guys, like you just like that ain't special. Say that one more time for the crowd. One more time. You ain't gonna get paid by that. Like you just say that.
Hey, this is what CCN.
For the crowd.
This is what CCN does. Like I said, JB, me, we all doing work next month in July. Should be mid to late July. Teddy Long will be coming to the Humble Roses podcast.
Here comes the Mac Militant.
And again, if we'll go live, if y'all want to pull up and if y'all want to interact, pull up to the show. And another one.
You know we all facing the Undertaker now, right? If you pull up to that show, you hope you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been in the same room I've been in the same with Teddy Long like 3 times in the last like 3 years. Just for smoking it.
I got one more announcement. So October 3rd, mark this on your calendars. This will be right around about, I'd say 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We have locked in an official interview with Santino Marella. He will be on the show. We will have Mr. Cobra on the show. The ladies we're working on, well, I don't want to say, but they're Angel and Ness are going to be doing their own thing, their own interview.
You got to ask about John Cena.
Yeah, gotta ask. So again, pull up, but next month in October, and we haven't announced what I got going on in August. There's another interview that I'm knocking out later in July. That's with Jessica Havoc, former TNA wrestler. She's in Neo Pro Wrestling now, which is like 25 minutes from where I stay. So I'm gonna go out there and talk to her a little bit, and then we'll move on. But this has been Culture Clash Network. Make sure you follow all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all doing the work that needs to be done, and we will see you guys later. And make sure you check out Talk It Up podcast, Sports for You, and JB versus the World. And definitely come to the Humble Roses podcast. We'll see you guys later.
They win, man.
Yeah, we pulling.